Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to today's Channel Focus webinar. Our topic for today is Onboarding Partners, Accelerating Partners' Time to Market. Our expert speaker for today is Carmen Cerise, Senior Vice President of Channels at SunGard Availability Services. Cerise joined SunGard AS in 2008 to build and launch its channel business. Since that time, SunGard AS has grown its channel business at 30% CAGR, and the channel partners have become an integral part of SunGard AS's go-to-market strategy. More than 50% of SunGard's new logo sales bookings in 2014 were closed with channel partners, up 10% from 2008. Cerise's experience and success in building channel programs has been recognized by CRN, which named him to their list of top 20 networking channel chiefs in 2008. Top 20 storage channel chiefs in 2009 and 2010, and channel chief in 2013, 14, and 15. Carmen received the 2013 Circle of Excellence Award from Virgo Publishing for vision, innovation, and advocacy in the channel. In 2014, Carmen was also invited to serve on the Channel Partners Advisory Board and the BAPTI Channel Focus Advisory Board. Prior to joining SunGard, Cerise was the Vice President, North American Channels with Alcatel-Lucent. In that role, Carmen led channel sales, marketing, and operations for North America. In the first year under his leadership, Alcatel-Lucent's channel business grew more than 40%. All phone lines are in listen-only mode today, and later there will be a question and answer session with instructions being given at that time. You may also ask a question at any time using the chat window located in the control panel. Chat questions will also be answered at the end of the presentation. Today's session is being recorded, and you will be provided a copy of today's materials following the call. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Carmen. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate the introduction, and welcome everybody. Thanks for spending some time with us to cover this topic. What we're going to talk about today is how can you reduce a new partner's time to market, and we're going to talk about onboarding partners. But the different twist you'll see and you'll hear from this presentation is less to do with the questions we're faced on this topic as we're selling with channel partners. Many times we'll look at our channel sales bookings, we'll look at our channel sales pipeline, see that it's not as large as we'd like, or we're not growing year over year as much as we had planned for and budgeted for. And at that time, many of us in the channel industry ask ourselves, hey, how can we enable partners better, and how can we reduce their time to market and their time to revenue? What I'd like to do on this call is take a few steps back so that you think about this topic not only when you're actually executing in the field after you've signed and onboarded partners, but in addition to that, you're thinking about it more upfront when you're developing your partner profile, when you're starting to recruit partners, so that you do those actions in a way that's consistent with convincing them that there's a business proposition for them, so that as you onboard them, you're not just pushing on a rope, you're actually getting pull from the partner, so that you can both grow business together. So with that, let me start the presentation. So the topics that I want to cover is, first of all, strategy. Again, upfront, really starting with your defined partner strategy, and more importantly, what is the partner business proposition, and what are your targeted partner types? And I'll talk a little bit more about business proposition. Many of us in the product field always think of value propositions for our products or our services, but when you're trying to get an ecosystem of channel partners behind you, you better have a strong business proposition for them, or else they're going to put you behind many other vendors they have coming knocking on their door. The second topic I want to cover is relevance. So as you try to sign on partners with your product, with your service, it's really important for you to understand what those partners do today, what their selling motions are today, and what pays their bills today, so that you can become relevant to them and you can weave your service or product into what they're already doing, into their current selling motions. Along those lines, as you work with new channel partners, it's important to understand the other vendors they work with so that you can, as we say, triangulate with those other vendors so you can come up with more compelling solutions. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we get into tools. Many of us often go to tools right away to fix a problem. Revenue's not growing fast enough. Let's implement an onboarding program. Let's implement a training program. Let's do a spiff. And many times it's a little too late in the process. So if you do the first three things and then get into tools, you'll be building tools that are more relevant, more efficient, and more effective actually with your partners. And then I want to talk about, after you do all these things, looking at not only partner satisfaction, but also the partner experience. And I'll talk about the differences between the two. So let's start with strategy. When you're onboarding partners, it's important for all of us to realize that the journey really starts before the partner signs. As vendors, we need to think about what our route to market is going to be. What is the business proposition going to be for a specific set of partners? And we need to design the program around that set of partners. And I'm going to go into examples later that I've witnessed here at SunGard Availability Services. And yes, we're a service provider. We provide fully recoverable IT production services, and we're trying to monetize a network of partners who have traditionally sold hardware. So that's the perspective that I'm coming at it from. But I also have experience in other firms doing similar partner enablement, so I'll try to bring that experience to light as well. As you're developing that strategy, you really need to think about the marketing and sales incentives that should align with the value prop for that target partner. Are you going after a certain vertical? Are you going after a certain type of partner? If you're like SunGard AS, where we've built many multi-tenant cloud services on a Cisco platform, our partner profile consisted of Cisco resellers, because we figured as they're selling Cisco hardware today, they will be evolving into selling Cisco-powered solutions tomorrow. And so that was part of the profile that we used. And I throw that out as an example. Hopefully you can find similar examples for the products and services that fit with what you're doing in your businesses. The other key thing we found is, as a program, it's good to have this in mind. It's good to have the strategy. It's good to think about the partner profile. What you need to do next is indoctrinate your channel field team so that they can create their tactical sales plans and manage that execution at the partner level. And again, it's not just figuring out the strategy, figuring out the profile, but it's really getting your whole team operationalized on what you're doing. And I don't care if you have a team of 30 people or a team of 3 people, given their different functions, whether it's channel programs, channel training, channel sales, channel marketing, everyone needs to be on the same wavelength in terms of what the plan is, what the strategy is, what the partner profiles are, so that from an end-to-end process perspective, your channel partners see it consistent throughout. And the other thing is, one size no longer fits all. I think we know that. And I think we need to build onboarding processes and tools to address specific partner products, markets, et cetera. So I'll talk a little bit more about this, but if you have a broad portfolio, this is specifically important because your program needs to talk to your different portfolio elements. If you're a company that has a one product, let's say you're manufacturing a firewall, this point is a little less relevant to you. But if you have a portfolio of products, a portfolio of services, you need to think about which partners you're profiling for each part of that portfolio, and how do you roll out the programs to bring them on board for each part of your portfolio. The next piece I want to talk about is relevance, and this, through learning, it became even more important to me in my experiences. When you come out with your service and you're trying to roll it out to partners, you may think it's the best service or product that's in the market. However, we all know that these integrators, these partners, these resellers, they have a broad portfolio of vendors they work with. And whenever we come to the table as a vendor and say, hey, look, we have a new product you should be selling, we need to make sure we establish relevance to the partner's current business model. So the examples I'm using here are more in the IT systems integrator VAR space. As you approach a VAR partner or a reseller, a systems integrator, it's important to understand that the relevance that you can bring to them has to do with the fact that where they are today is not where they're looking to move tomorrow. So if there's a VAR or a systems integrator and they're looking to become more of a managed service provider, a cloud builder, your business proposition and your underlying value propositions for your services need to be relevant to that partner, not only for where they are today, but for where they're going. An example of this is, I'll get into later, if you're selling an as a service in the IT area and you're talking to a partner who sells hardware, dedicated hardware today, if you don't address this in the correct fashion, partners will see you more as a competitive threat than they will as a tool that they can use to complement their business and grow. So understanding their business model, what pays their bills today, and where they're going in the future, this is all very important in terms of you developing your methods and procedures for bringing those partners on board. Not only bringing them on board, but again, back to even profiling them in the beginning. And it's easy to forget this because we get wrapped up in our own products, and we look at our competitors and who else is offering a product, what price are they offering it, what's their power consumption, what are the speeds and feeds associated with that product, and we tend to go out and position a product in the market. Many of us do that, and you really always have to take a step back to say, if I were in the partner shoes and I was the 10th partner knocking on the 10th vendor knocking on their door that week, how might I be interpreting this? And it's those vendors who relate more to the partner's existing selling motion and business model are the vendors who are, in my opinion, going to get the most mind share. So as you understand more about their current selling model, part of that will include understanding what their current vendor ecosystem looks like. And what we've tried to do successfully, not in the beginning, we spent a couple years learning this, but we've achieved more success after we operationalized around the fact that these partners have an ecosystem of vendors they work with. And when we came in with a certain message that we had something that could be sold to their clients as a service in a consumption model, we thought that would be enough for them to understand it and want to sell it. It wasn't until we realized, hey, we really have to weave our way in to their hardware reselling model in order for them to understand the importance of working with us as a service provider. And one example I'll use that one of the channel sales directors uses on my team, and again, I'll go back to the Cisco analogy because we offer several different multi-tenant services that are built on a Cisco platform. When partners were objecting, saying, "No, I'm selling enough hardware, I don't need to move to the cloud, my customers aren't ready yet," this is probably 18 months ago, his comment was, well, to the partner, ask your customers how they would like to consume Cisco. Would they like to continue consuming Cisco in a dedicated manner, on-prem, buying the hardware from the partner, or are they ready to start thinking about consuming Cisco in a multi-tenant or as a service model? And the reason this is important is this gets to my previous point about relevance. So we made it relevant to what they do today. It also triangulated around the fact that there's a lot of business these partners do with hardware vendors today. So if you can create a story around how to triangulate, it's that much more powerful, not only to the partners, but it's also powerful to the sales teams for the hardware vendors. Because after all, many of these partners have a significant percentage of their business tied to a hardware vendor, whether it's Cisco, HP, EMC, IBM. And if you can make your service or product relevant to them, and if you can explain the value prop that it provides them in an overall manner, I think you'll see much more success. So that's what I mean when I refer to accelerating time to market by defining your value in that partner ecosystem. And when we take questions later, I'd be more than happy to go into detail if anybody wants to understand more about the ways in which we do this. Let me give you an example of how this works. And again, I'm going to pick an example that's close to what I do today, but I'm sure many of you can relate to this. Let's say you're a storage as a service provider. So you have a service that you can offer clients where they can procure storage capacity as a service. And let's say you're going after a partner community that includes resellers, solution providers, value-added resellers. There's one approach that you can take as you're trying to recruit those partners. And what you can say to them is, hey, you need to change. Your customers want to buy storage as a service. Let us help you move your company into the future. You need to add this new service onto your line card because you need to give your clients alternatives. And that approach may work if you're dealing with a partner who is convinced that they have to move in that direction. If they're very proactive in their thinking and they're very forward-looking, they may resonate with that. But if you're dealing with what we once called a lifestyle VAR, or a partner who is very, very pleased with the business they have and the growth that they're seeing, these points are not compelling enough to them to change. And they may sign an agreement with you because they know it's something some of their customers are asking for, but you will not see their time to market meet what your requirements might have been or what your budget had set out to be. So you need to kind of change the game. And so the other option you have is to talk about how your service will enable them to give their customer alternatives and to remain a trusted advisor in the eyes of their clients. If you position it in a way that talks to incremental value instead of value that replaces something, that incremental value makes the partner realize they can keep selling what they're selling. Maybe we'll even help them sell more of it, but there's incremental value you're adding on top of that hardware sale that comes in the form of a service, staying with this example. And really talking about how the service complements what they already have on their line card instead of putting the fear in them that it needs to replace what they have, because you may not have believers that it will replace things. And the other thing is with cloud today, most customers are looking at cloud and as a service options, but the reality is it will never be 100% of all customers' IT solutions. There will continue to be a lot of hardware that's moved throughout the ecosystem. And so positioning it with a VAR or solution provider in a way that says, hey, look at these hybrid solutions your clients are looking for. They need some things served to them in a dedicated fashion. There may be other applications that they want to put in the cloud or they want to buy as a service. So again, in this example, if you're a storage as a service provider and you're looking to recruit these hardware solution providers, these hardware resellers, taking the option 2 is probably going to result in a better outcome for you. And I'd be interested in the question and answer session if you guys have feedback on this, or you dispute it, because I can tell you, learning by experience in this company and even in previous companies, you kind of really stay with option 1 because you really feel strongly about your offer and you want to convince people to move, and you become kind of an evangelist around it. And once you take a step back and strip out that emotion and just deal with the facts that your customer's running a business, they're paying for their electricity, they're paying for their salaries, and you need to weave into their model, not the other way around. So that's the point that I wanted to make on this one. to bring this to life, I talked about some of this already, but this is how we practice what I just talked about. So we're a service provider. We offer cloud services, recover to the cloud services, or RAS, DRAS, recovery as a service, disaster recovery as a service, to use industry terms. And the way we went about it is we have a target where we're looking to go after primarily Cisco resellers, because again, we've built a lot of our services on Cisco platforms. And what we've done is we've created the right partner profile. We started looking for partners who are a little bit more aggressive in their pursuit to sell services. And we've crafted partner value propositions that have to do with not only our service, but also to look at how it might also drive hardware resale and the compensation associated with that hardware resale, the benefits the partner would get from their hardware vendors in the form of rebates. And we basically started training partners and started training the ecosystem of hardware partners, in this example, Cisco, to show them how they can benefit from this by retiring quotas and getting paid for the cloud deals that we're able to do with them. The next piece is really about recruitment and enablement and collaborating with a vendor, developing target enablement tools. But again, we did this middle piece a few years ago with more of the trying to force fit things, pushing on a rope, as I said. It wasn't until we changed our target, we changed our profile, we changed our approach with partners, where we made them understand how it could help them not only prepare themselves for the future, but how it can make them more money today. Once we did that and restructured our partner profile, once we restructured the engagement strategy, then the recruitment and enablement tools that we rolled out were received much more readily. And it felt less, I'll use the analogy one last time, it felt less like pushing on a rope, and it felt more like, hey, we're coming into the partners with something and they're actually pulling us in and bringing us into opportunities and engaging with us with ideas on how we can grow our mutual business together. And so there's results. We've signed a lot of the Cisco Gold partners, and when we look at those partners, they're among our top partners when we look at which partners actually take the training that we offer. So that's a test as to whether your story is sticking. Are partners doing things to enable themselves, or are they doing the bare minimum to meet the requirements that you have as a vendor? What we found is where we saw partners going above and beyond, taking their own training, computer-based training, we found that the partners we targeted were much more, their participation rate was much higher compared to the broader universe. And the real result is leads and revenue. And when we look back at these partners, the partners who we worked with in the manner I just described, they had 30% more leads than their comparative partners did who weren't trained and didn't go through this process. So again, I'm trying to show you how this isn't just an idea or a theory. We've actually learned by experience. We went back and thought about, hey, how did we get this change? What did we do to really get to where we are at now with better performance? And it was surprising to us to think about, hey, it all started back at the target and the partner profile, because it's not something typically you think of when you think about enablement. You think about more of the tactical tools that you're deploying. So now let's get to tools, because I'm not trying to de-emphasize the importance of the program elements and the tools that you have in place. They are extremely important, because once you have the partner engaged, once the partner's invested, and they know they want to do more business with you as one of their key vendors, if you don't have the right tools, then everything else will fall apart. What I'm saying is, don't jump to the development and the launching of tools before you do some of these other steps. Take some of these other steps that I'm putting out there. And when you think about training, many of us get frustrated. I have a great product. I can't seem to get the attention of the partner. I think I have some mind share, but I can't get my share of time with their reps. I can't get their share of time with their pre-sales engineers. And so you got to really think about it from their perspective. You know, and we worked with iPad, and we look at their data, and we've analyzed it to help us develop a better program. And when you look at it, partners are spending a lot of time in vendor sales training. They're spending a lot of time on technical sales training. So anytime you go into a partner and say, hey, it's only 2 or 3 days, that's not a lot. Well, they're adding it to all the other days they spend with every other vendor they have in their portfolio. So again, if you establish relevance, they'll think about it as, oh, it's not just a product I'm training people on, but this also ties in to the other products I sell. So it becomes more of a core part of their selling motion rather than an add-on and a new quote unquote black shiny box, pizza box that goes in a rack somewhere. Be conscious of how much time you're asking for from your partners. Never underestimate the impact that it's going to have in asking them to pull people out of the field to learn about your product. Even if you're winning awards in the marketplace and your product has been deemed the best in whatever category you're in, you still can't underestimate the fact that your partner is going to be concerned about time that their reps and their pre-sales engineers have to spend out of the field to go learn about it. And also keep in mind that your partners will expect a return on investment that's probably shorter than you even think, right? They want to see, 6 to 12 months. Some may go out to 24 months, but 6 to 12 is when they want to see a return on investment. So all of your tools and all of your programs can't be built around just teaching them about the product or the service. It has to also cover off how we develop a joint pipeline together and how we close deals together. So again, we think about program elements, we think about onboarding, and many times we underestimate the impact it's going to have on a partner. Where I've also seen this is if you're working with folks who have spent a lot of time in large, well-established partner programs, let's just say an IBM program, a Cisco program, an HP program, and they move to a smaller company, there's this mindset that where they think, okay, I'm just going to go with my new company and their widget. I know how to get people trained. Well, the pull that you're going to get from a partner is extremely different when you're working for ABC company that's 20 million in revenue and trying to establish your position in the industry as compared with one of these other global leaders in hardware. And so the concepts are similar, but trying to get that mind share is very different, and you have to be cognizant of that. So let's talk about the tools themselves. The recruitment tools that you use and the onboarding tools you use, you really have to make sure that you have a good balance. So it's not just face-to-face training, computer-based training, but what are you doing in social media? Are you present at the trade shows? What kind of website do you have? Do you have a decent partner portal for them to be working on? And what I found in this example is when you're going into a partner ecosystem with a new product or a new service, you can't just think about tools that are needed for your product or service. You need to think about what are the tools, what are the processes that these partners are using today? Are they used to getting information from a portal? Are they used to face-to-face training? These are all things you need to spend time understanding what your audience is used to, because again, the better you establish relevance, not only for their other ecosystem partners, but the more you establish relevance in terms of how they learn, how they consume vendors' information, that's going to help you accelerate the onboarding process. And then the rest of it is I call them table stakes, but your MDF funds, your SPIFs, your education, your infrastructure support. These are all table stakes. We all have them, or we're building them if we're a smaller company. But again, as you build them, think about your partner profile. Think about your target partner ecosystem and build this infrastructure not on what you think is best just for your product, but also consider what they're doing today, the tools they're using today, the program elements they're using today, et cetera. I'll give you an example. I was dealing with one systems integrator on the West Coast, and I was bragging about our new partner portal, and I said, look what you can get. And he said, Carmen, I have 52 vendors. My sales guys can't go looking at 52 different portals. You got to help me streamline this so that, I only look at the highest level stuff that's relevant to me. So again, I was so to speak, the proud parent of a great tool, but to a partner, it was the 50th tool that he got from a partner, and he was looking for simplification. So again, I'll reiterate, that's important to keep in mind. And when you look at your program elements, it's important that when you build them, you need to build them so that your company looks and feels like an established, partner-friendly company. So when we started at SunGard Availability Services in 2009, 2010 with a partner program, we built a lot of these elements not because we needed them from a volume perspective, because we could have done a lot of this manually. However, our partners were expecting an experience that involved quality material, a quality portal, quality training elements, including video training that we offer, maybe even apps on their mobile. So we did a lot of this, and it wasn't easy because I had to fight for funds to do this. Even though we didn't need them to keep up with the volume, we kind of had to take the first step in so that when partners, or I should say prospects, looked at our program, they saw us as a company that had all of these elements in place, and it made them feel more comfortable that by partnering with us, they would be partnering with a company that took channel seriously, and that it wasn't just kind of the flavor of the month or the flavor of the year. So again, it's the importance of the program elements. First and foremost are functionality, but keep in mind everything you do in this area is you putting your brand in front of these prospects or partners. And so you have to think of it not only in the tactical sense of a tool or an element or a lead registration process, but again, every interaction the partner has with you is an interaction they have with your brand, and you're developing that experience with them that they're going to consider when they decide whether to continue reselling your service or to go with a competitor. And so let me talk a little bit about partner experience. For years, we measured, in other companies that I was at, we measured partner sat. And you start to realize, or we've started to realize, that partner satisfaction is really a feeling the partner has. Are they satisfied? Are they not satisfied? And we didn't, in other companies, and even in SunGard in the beginning, we didn't see a direct correlation between that high satisfaction and growth in sales. Because again, satisfaction is a feeling, and a partner may say, hey, I'm satisfied, I really like that company. But that doesn't mean they're doing anything. When you get to loyalty and you start talking about the partner experience, this really starts to measure behavior. And let's be clear, the behavior as vendors, the behavior we're all looking for is a behavior where the partner is selling more of your stuff. That is the behavior we want. And satisfaction alone isn't a measurement that'll tell you everything you need to know. You really need to think about the overall experience. So they may be satisfied with you, but are they also satisfied with competitors, right? When you get into behaviors and experiences, you start trying to find out, how do you get them to be more loyal to you? How do you make them less likely to go to your competitors? How do you make them more likely to recommend your company to others? And again, most importantly, how do you get them to behave in a way where they're doing more business with you? And so it's a nuance in a way, and some of you may be saying, well, what's the difference, satisfaction, experience? In my opinion, it is an important differentiation, and it's something that if you do all the other things that we just talked about, and then you land on experience and measure it as an experience, I think you'll get a better return on that assessment than if you were just measuring satisfaction. So let me summarize quickly, and then we'll have time for questions. Talked about strategy. Again, the topic of this webinar is how to accelerate the time to market when you're onboarding your partners. And so some of you might have seen strategy, partner profiling, and think, why are we talking about that? That's way earlier on in the process. Well, what I've tried to communicate to you is it's important that as you develop your strategy and you develop your partner profiles, the better job you do at that point, the more effective you're going to be later on when you onboard the folks. Relevance, I think I've said enough on this one. Don't think of yourself as a silo, because in your partner's mind, you're not a silo. You're another vendor knocking on their door for time and mind share from their sales and pre-sales folks. So you better establish relevance in terms of what they do today to conduct their business and how you can help them do more of that in a way that makes them an even better trusted advisor with their clients. As you do that, as you try to establish relevance, and as you establish relevance, the ecosystem of partners is important. I gave you the examples of Cisco. You have your own examples of whatever product or service you're looking to sell. There are other partners, there are other vendors in your partner's portfolio that touch your product. Well, understand the interface points, understand the significance of any overlap that might exist, and more importantly, any integration that can happen with those other partners, so you can triangulate around that and be more powerful to your client by not just having a widget, but having solutions with other vendors that they work with. Talked about tools, and I talked about the overall partner experience. So with that, that concludes my prepared comments. I know it's hard to talk about onboarding partners from one point of view. In this case, I'm talking to you as a service provider. What I try to do is make some of these concepts portable enough in concept so that you can see how you can use them in various different industries and products or services, and hopefully you found that valuable. But at this point, Lisa, I think we're good to open it up for questions.
All right, folks. Well, thank you very much. We will now open it up for questions. If you would like to ask a question, you may do so using the chat window located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So we'll give everyone a couple of seconds here to start generating some questions for Carmen. And looks like we have our first question. Can you go into a little more detail about the difference between partner satisfaction versus partner experience?
Yes, I'd be glad to do that. So partner satisfaction, the way we measured it in other companies and in SunGard early on, had to do with talking to partners and asking them about whether or not they were satisfied with us. So, hey, are we meeting your requirements for our portal? Are we meeting your requirements for selling tools? Are you satisfied with your channel account manager you have working with you? And many partners may say, yeah, I like the partner manager. Yeah, I think you have the right tools. But partner experience gets more into, as I said earlier, really understanding their behaviors. So, getting more into their willingness to recommend us to other partners, their experience in the selling motion with us as a vendor, and asking probing questions about the pluses and minuses about that experience so that you can measure it and make corrective actions. And it got to the point here at SunGard Availability Services where we actually named a person, it's Christina Grazeman on our team, who's our partner experience director. And her role is to make sure that partners aren't just satisfied by being a partner of ours, but that they have an experience with us that's meeting their business goals. And that's a lot of phone time, one-on-one, talking to partners, probing into the experience. And it's also asking the right questions and getting the right feedback from the customer. So hopefully that answers that question a bit. And I'd be more than willing to, if you're interested, to connect with me and we can have a longer conversation.
Okay, great. Well, we did have a a couple more questions come in. So let's see. This is from Julie. Julie said, "Thanks, Carmen. WRT, the percentage of time spent training, was the 10.5 days and 15 days inclusive of all vendor training, i.e. 52 partners vying for 10 available days?"
I'm here. Go ahead.
Does that make sense?
It does. I'm going to go back to that slide. That was an iPad fact.
Okay.
Yeah, as I understand it, that was the total time spent.
Okay.
Yeah, because if it was per partner, this would be all they were doing, right? So this is the time that they spend with vendors in general, and I look at it as that's my total addressable market. I have to go after now. I have to steal days away from that if I want them to spend time on my product.
Okay. And Julie also said, "What is iPad, please?"
Partner
Gosh.
education. I'll have to get back to you on the acronym. I believe.
Got you on that one, huh?
Well, I've been dealing with them for so many years. I forgot what their acronym is, but it's a group that was and still is part of, I believe, CRN, or the channel company, and
right.
it's they provide market research to help companies build their partner programs, and it's less of a consulting engagement in terms of marketing tactics, and it's more in terms of thought leadership around what it takes to be successful in the channel.
Okay, great. All right. The next one is from Eileen. Eileen said, when you did your analysis on the ecosystem, what resources did you use?
When I did, all right. So that's an interesting question. There's not a straightforward answer. So it was just through a lot of hard work and a lot of bumps and bruises early on. So when we were looking at hardware resellers, these are companies who sold a lot of Cisco, EMC, NetApp hardware, and we weren't getting traction. We started to probe with partner managers in the partnering companies, alliance managers, to understand what their overall portfolio of vendors looks like, who they were doing most of their business with, and what most of their training was spent on. So we tried to get in the door a little bit to understand more about how those partners operated. We also leveraged 2 or 3 different industry consultants. We hired a consultant where we had several half-day sessions with them to ask them open-ended questions. We procured different benchmarking studies from companies, probably 2 or 3 of them. And so between the discussions with partners, the benchmarking studies we purchased, and then the one-on-one consulting time that's probably a good summary as to how we got our information. But I will say the most relevant information was the information that came straight from the partners. And I would say the benchmarking and consultant validated a lot of that, but 95% of what we needed to know came from the partners themselves.
Okay, great. All right, next question from Matt. Who do you engage the partner to gain mind share? Do you engage them via lunch and learn, webinar? What is the best practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll peel it back. So at the very highest level in the beginning, we spend a lot of time with the executives, the founders, the principals, because we want to make sure that we're in sync with what they're trying to do with their company, number one. Number two, we do spend time on lunch and learns, or the evening version that we call Hug and Chugs. And in the beginning, that we got a lot of value from that to gain mind share. But in order to gain market share, we had to take the next step, which was more about getting engagements going with the partners' sales teams. So whether it was with our experts in sales for cloud or recovery, or whether it was with our direct selling reps, getting those teams together and having them identify opportunities is probably the single most important selling motion that we go through with our partners today. And yes, we still do the lunch and learns, but it's just many times they're just the opening of the door, and then it's over and nothing happens. You have to go through the doorway, engage with their sales teams, and put in action what it is they learned at the lunch and learn. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, great. And I've got to say, I did giggle out loud. I love that hug and chug instead of lunch and learn. That's really good. I'm going to have to remember that one. Okay, next question. Joseph says, do you make exceptions for the partners that don't have the resources to use a portal? How do you get around that? And where do you see interaction with partners going? For instance, portal, email, mobile, in person, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have a hard requirement that our partners need to register and be a user on our portal. One of the main reasons is for lead registration. So we do have that standardized, and so it's a requirement. Where do I see it going? Again, the portal is important. The portal is a table stake to get in the game. I think moving that to mobile is becoming more and more, it's becoming the trend. We have some partners who want it. We've experimented with that where we didn't have a lot of high take rate a couple of years ago, but we're investing in that again. And we believe, again, in the spirit of making it easier for the partners to interact with you and improving their experience. Their mobile, their iPhone, their smartphone is attached to them, and I believe that's going to be very important going forward.
All right, excellent. All right, looks like we have two more questions for you. First, Mark asks, do you have partner-to-partner account managers who are experts in selling 2 to 3 products as an offering and are assigned to a partner to sell a solution to a partner's customer?
Do I have?
Yeah, so account manager, partner, okay.
Go ahead, repeat it. I'm sorry, Lisa.
Okay, yep, no worries. Do you have partner-to-partner account managers who are experts in selling 2 to 3 products as an offering and are assigned to a partner to sell a solution to a partner's customer?
Yep, okay, so let me answer that question. What we do have is regionally deployed channel account managers who help our partner sales teams understand our products in the region that our channel account managers reside. We also have what I would call national partner managers who manage large partnerships who, let's just say, cut across the North American region, or in Europe, across many different countries in Europe. And those resources work with large partners at their corporate level, with their CTOs, with their learning organizations. And so we hit them at the corporate level, and then at the regional level in the field, we have channel account managers who work with them. In addition to that, like many other companies, depending on where our company is making an investment in new services, we typically roll out new services that come along with a team of expert salespeople across, let's say, the North American region or the European region. And those folks will be on planes flying around talking to direct clients and partners about a new product, recovery as a service, or our self-managed cloud. And so that's a technique we use to try and accelerate the introduction of new services into our partners.
Okay. Well, one last question. This one comes from Jennifer, and she asks, do you use a mobile app for enablement? And if so, what vendor do you use?
Yes, we've rolled out a mobile app, and I know my Christina's on the phone, and she probably knows the vendor. So, Christina, if you could send me a text with the vendor's name, I'd appreciate it. That's why I went to this picture. I know we rolled one out. I'll have to get back to you with the name of the actual vendor.
Christina wrote back already, and she said channelize.
There you go.
Excellent. All right. Well, that was teamwork.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much sums up all of our questions. We had a great bunch of questions today. So Carmen, thank you so much for offering your time and sharing your knowledge with us. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. Do please take a few moments to fill out your post-event survey. Your input is very important to us. This does conclude today's conference, and you may now disconnect. And thank you again, Carmen.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.